On Wednesday the 27th of February 2008, I visited the Houses of Parliament to witness the mass lobby of MPs regarding a nationwide referendum on the Lisbon Treaty. I spoke with Mats Persson, who works for Open Europe, who were one of the organisers of the event.
What we see behind here is a mass lobby of Parliament. People are coming from across the UK to tell their MP in person that the MP should keep the promise and vote for a referendum.
In 2005, the public of France and the Netherlands voted against the European Constitution. This would have given vast new powers to the European Union, and some say would have led to a country called Europe, with Britain reduced to a regional state. The Constitution was therefore discarded at the time, as treaties need to be ratified by every member state before they come law. European integration goes back much further than 2005. The history of the EU starts in 1951. The Paris Treaty, signed in April, was designed to bring peace to Europe after World War II. The treaty brought the essential materials for war, coal and steel production, under the supervision of a supranational organisation. This consists of non-partisan organisation that has legal and political power over the member states in the areas in which they sign away sovereignty. This made it impossible to break away and begin production of war materials. To govern the supervision and management of the European coal and steel community, internal organisations were set up. These building blocks would later become the institutions that are the internal cogs of the European Union today. The High Authority was set up and would later become the Commission. The Commission is the only institution that can propose legislation and currently consists of one member per state. As it represents the enlargement of the European Union, they are likely to propose legislation that strengthens the EU and weakens the member states' sovereignty.
That it's the Commission that is the guardian of the treaties, that it's the Commission that is the motor for integration, that it's the Commission that initiates the legislation that is damaging our businesses across Europe so badly. It is the Commission that is the embodiment of all that is worst in this European Union. It is the Commission that is the government of Europe and is not directly accountable to anybody.
The Common Assembly was also set up. This would later become the European Parliament. The European Parliament is supposed to give democratic legitimacy to the European Union, although it is claimed leads to a democratic deficit. It operates in co-decision with the Council of Ministers by voting on proposals sent to them from the Commission. This is why accusations of a democratic deficit are often levied. They have no right to propose legislation themselves, unlike most democratically elected national parliaments. So in effect there are no opposition parties. The Parliament is split between Brussels, Luxembourg and Strasbourg. This leads to accusations of extravagance and waste. The Council of Ministers represents the interest of the member states. The members are dependent upon the area of European legislation proposed. For example, the agriculture ministers will attend votes on new farming laws. They are able to block legislation when a unanimous vote is required, thus giving member states vetoes, unless the area requires a majority vote. This is done through qualified majority voting. This gives the ministers a set number of points which is dependent upon the population they represent. By using QMV, this removes the national veto from any area QMV is extended to. This weakens national sovereignty and makes it likely that member states will have laws imposed on them. This is why the removal of vetoes are hotly debated over at each treaty that extends QMV and removes vetoes. The European Court of Justice is the judicial power of the European Union. It deals principally with the implementation of EU laws that are predominantly laid out by the EU treaties. European citizens can bring a case before the ECJ if it involves EU laws. The ECJ also has the power to rule against member states' governments and businesses who fail to adhere to treaty requirements. Critics argue this transfers power away from the national courts and into the hands of the unaccountable European Union. The Treaty of Paris also gave birth to community law. Community law has direct effect on citizens, businesses and governments throughout the member states. Where community law contradicts with national laws, community law takes precedence, as is stated in the Treaty of Accession that participating countries must sign. So laws written by the unelected Commission override national laws of democratic governments. The next treaty signed was the Treaty of Rome. Signed by the previous 6 countries, this established the EEC, which stands for the European Economic Community. Worryingly first coined by Hermann Goering. The purpose of the treaty was to put in place a community that would lead to a common European market. This allowed the EEC to legislate in areas of trade which weakened sovereignty of the member states. Another treaty signed by the same countries on the same day created Euratom. This was designed to share the cost of creating atomic energy. Earlier attempts at a treaty failed due to arguments over national sovereignty being eroded, which 50 years later still persists with every new treaty. QMV is often criticised because of this. The next treaty signed was the Brussels or Merger Treaty. This was designed to merge the communities of the EEC, thus bringing together the same 6 countries politically and financially. The ECSC, which was created by the Paris Treaty, was now merged with the EEC and Euratom, both from the Rome treaties. It did this by running all 3 communities through one single commission, one single council of ministers, all run through with one single budget.